In this video, we're going to show you how to install these CV axles on your Hummer H3 located behind your front wheels. With the vehicle raised and supported, I'm going to go ahead and remove our center cap. You can use a flathead screwdriver or a trim tool, and you're going to come in right behind here and gently pry out and pop that off. Using a 19mm socket, I'm going to go ahead and loosen and remove our lug nuts. Go ahead and grab that wheel, remove it, and set it aside. With the front wheel removed, I'm going to go ahead and locate this clamp right here on your upper control arm. This supports the brake flex hose. We're going to use a 10mm socket, loosen and remove this bolt. Once you remove that bolt, I'm going to go ahead and slide this hose off. And I'm going to go ahead and throw the bolt right back in the control arm. Just thread it in a few threads. We're going to go ahead and disconnect our ABS wire here. Now, in most cases, you can just pop these out, and it's going to give you a little bit of flexibility when we're working on the vehicle. However, we're going to disconnect it all the way up and from the main harness. The last thing you want to do is put undue pressure on the ABS wire and ruin it, where it's going to be an additional expense later. So we're going to go right up here. We're going to disconnect it from the top, and then unplug it right from behind the fender liner right here, and just pull the whole harness right out. Now, up right behind the fender liner here is the ABS connector, and we can just see that in the mirror there to show you where it is. So you're literally just going to reach up there. There's a little spring clip on it, and we'll show you once we pop this out. Now, if you have a hard time pulling that out, you can use your trim tool. You can pop that connector off of the mount that it's on. So we're going to do that so we can show you a little bit better. So we just pulled that out from that little retainer. Here's a little spring clip here. You pull up on this and separate it like so. Now you have your whole harness. We now want to go ahead and remove our brake caliper, and there are two 18mm bolts. There's one right here, one up top. We're going to use our breaker bar. Go ahead and loosen this. And go ahead and loosen the upper one. I'm going to remove that and set it aside. We have the hanger here. Whatever you have, if you want to use a heavy-duty securing strap or something, but what we're going to do is when we remove this bolt, we need to take the whole caliper, pull it off, and we're going to hang off of the frame or off of something on the side over here to support it. We do not want to have the flex hose be pulled on, causing undue pressure. Now I am holding the caliper in place here. We don't want that to fall. Remove that bolt. Be careful of that brake rotor. The brake rotor will be free. With the brake caliper pulled aside, we can now grab that brake rotor, slide that off, and set that aside. Let's go ahead and loosen the pinch bolt here, securing the upper control arm to the knuckle. 18mm head here, we're going to put our wrench there, and we're going to use our breaker bar on the other side here. Now you may not need the wrench right away. If that bolt spins, then we'll have to secure it with our wrench. That's securing pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my ratchet. I'm going to go ahead and remove the nut. We're not going to remove this bolt yet, but go ahead and remove the nut and set that aside. On our tie rod here, we're going to go ahead and remove our cotter pin. Now, if your vehicle is using a cotter pin, this is how you're going to remove it. You want to bend out the tab here and then slide it through the front. You can pinch that cotter pin. Now, cotter pins are one-time use, so make sure you have a replacement one for this here. Sometimes your cotter pins might be rusted in there, and if they are and the ends break off, you can just put your impact gun on this here and zip that nut right off, and then you can tap out that cotter pin from that hole. Ours came right out. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove that nut. Our nut here is a 21 millimeter. Whatever size you might have, I think the original one might have been an 18 on yours. Either way, go ahead and loosen and remove this. Then you want to go ahead and pop the outer tie rod end out of the knuckle. Doing this here, we can use a hammer and strike the knuckle, and the tapered portion of the tie rod end should pop out. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses when doing this. Loosen and remove the axle nut. We're going to use a 35 millimeter axle nut socket. And remove that washer. Now, after you remove the axle nut, you want to go ahead and make sure that your axle is free floating inside the hub. You can go ahead and do this by simply pushing on this. You can see that that axle is moving. For any reason, if that axle is stuck in the splines, you want to go ahead and use a punch and put it right in the center here. You want to go ahead and strike that punch and go ahead and work that free, spraying inside here with some rust penetrant to break that free. But that's what you need here. Using a 27 millimeter socket, loosen and remove the lower ball joint nut. Go ahead and spray a little bit of rust penetrant on this here. We're going to work this nut back and forth. And install our nut here, just a couple threads. We're going to go ahead and move up to the upper ball joint. We're going to remove that pinch bolt. Let's go ahead and tap our bolt out. Now, if your bolt is stuck, you can go ahead and use an impact gun to go ahead and loosen this. We did spray down some rust penetrant to loosen this. Our bolt is stuck in there a little bit. We're just going to use a punch to the other side. There's the bolt. With the pinch bolt removed, go ahead and pull that upper ball joint out. Now I want to go ahead and strike our knuckle here to loosen or separate the ball joint from the knuckle. You can also strike it from the other side as well. Now with the ball joint released from the knuckle, we're going to go ahead and support our knuckle and remove the nut. And when we remove this here, we want to go ahead and work our axle out at the same time. Now you want to go ahead and use a pry bar, and you go between the back of the axle and the flange right behind it, and you're going to gently pry out. Sometimes it's just a quick little snap with that, and there it is, the axle popped out. Now you want to go ahead and clean up your axle seal. Now what we're looking at right here is our axle seal itself is leaking, it's bad. So now is a prime time to go ahead and replace that axle seal. If your axle seal is good and there's no moisture around here, you're simply going to go ahead and wipe out the seal itself. Make sure there's no debris on that. And take your new axle. I'm going to go ahead and slide this in. I'm going to support that and get that going into the splines in there. That's going to slide in only so far. There we go. Slides right in. You want to make sure that that's fully seated up against the flange itself. Go ahead and take your knuckle. Go ahead and work that CV axle into the wheel hub. And we're going to put the ball joint nut on there. Install the axle nut. Once you have your bolt in, go ahead and get the nut started on the bolt. Go ahead and take your tie rod end, line it up. You want to pay attention to the hole in the stud here. You want to make sure that it will line up with the notch in your castle nut once we go ahead and put that cotter pin in. Using a 24mm socket, go ahead and tighten down our lower ball joint nut. Tighten down your tie rod end. Let's tighten down our upper pinch bolt. I'm going to put an 18mm wrench on the nut. Let's torque down our pinch bolt to 52 foot-pounds. Torque down your tie rod end to 52 foot-pounds. You want to go ahead and locate the hole for the cotter pin. Now if the hole doesn't line up with the notch in the castle nut, go ahead and continue to tighten the nut until the next notch lines up, and then install your cotter pin. Cut off the excess. And when you go to tighten down the castle nut here, you want to pay attention to the hole in the ball joint stud here. You want to go ahead and line up the hole with the notch in the castle nut. I'm going to go ahead and torque this down to 62 foot-pounds, followed by an additional 60 degrees. And followed by the 60 degrees. Now the notch in my castle nut here did not line up. So even though we torqued it and then we did it to the 60 degrees, we have to continue to tighten this nut to the next notch. So I have a pry bar between the knuckle and the lower ball joint. Snip off the excess. Good, install the axle nut. I'm going to go ahead and snug this down. So just run our wire underneath our control arm here and snap it into this upper retainer. That'll just hold it up out of the way for now. Go ahead and set your rotor up there. I'm going to go ahead and throw a lug nut on here. And the purpose of this here is it's going to keep the rotor from falling off like this here when we go to install our brake caliper. Let's rotate that to about 6 o'clock. Before we install our brakes, go ahead and give the rotor a cleaning. We don't want to have a dirty rotor with our brakes. And don't forget the backside. Go ahead and grab that brake caliper. Remove the hanger. Let's go ahead and slide this over the brake rotor. I want to go ahead and get the upper bolt started. Once we get that bolt started, a few threads, it's safe to go ahead and let go of it. And then we'll go ahead and get that bottom bolt in. Just wiggle that caliper around and line that up. And we'll get that one started next. It's going to torque down the caliper to bracket bolts to 144 foot-pounds. Going to remove our bolt here. Install our bracket. Once you get that bolt started, I'm going to go ahead and run that down as far as you can, and then we'll snug it down. Once that bottom's out, just give it a little bit more. Install that in here, and then snap it over. Go ahead and take your connector end here, install that, push on so you feel it and hear it click. You're going to take this and reach that up inside, right on the fender liner, and press it in. Go ahead and take this end here. I'm going to feed this up. And your ABS wire is installed. So keep this lug nut on here. Install a second one here. We're going to put our pry bar here. Now let's go ahead and torque down our axle nut to 191 foot-pounds. And the lug nuts are there to protect the studs. Once you've met that torque spec, go ahead and remove the lug nuts. You can take your wheel, line it up on those studs, set it in place. We're going to go ahead and get all of our lug nuts started by hand. Once they're all started, we're going to go ahead and snug them down. Now I want to go ahead and snug these down in a crisscross pattern. We're now going to torque down our lug nuts to 103 foot-pounds. When doing this, you want to do it in a crisscross pattern. Grab your center cap. You want to line up this leg with the opening here in the wheel. And you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.